All right, so discussing recycling waste into wealth, Olawale Adebiyi, Chief Executive Officer at WeCyclers, joining me right here behind me. Hello, Olawale, we just have a few
Hello.
minutes. Hi, we just have about 5, 6 minutes to speak with you. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
How beneficial is it to turn waste into wealth? You know, I've heard that phrase, or I've heard that sentence for a long time. Speak to us practically about, the gains we can get from there, especially even regarding, I guess you're in Lagos, regarding what happened in Lagos just a few months ago.
Yeah, so waste to wealth is something that has been going on for quite a while. And basically, Recyclers has been doing recycling for about 12 years. When we first started, it was really not a very widely done thing where you actually go out and collect recyclables. But today, there's actually a very strong business case for recycling and waste management as a whole. And Recyclers actually is a very strong and thriving business because of the opportunities within waste management. And I'm sure if you go around and you look and you see people carrying big sacks of plastics, you wonder where they're going to. They're actually going to sell this plastic. And these plastics are creating revenues and generating income for a lot of people that didn't have these opportunities before. In addition, there are companies that are converting these recyclable materials into finished goods. Some of these materials are going into making fabric. And even more so, there's actually a new implementation whereby plastics are now going back into new plastic bottles. This was done recently by one of the large partners that we worked with in the past, and they actually putting recycled plastic back in their bottles. So, in terms of waste to wealth, I think it's something that has become much more prominent in society, and we're seeing much more strong business opportunities.
What are the economic benefits of recycling? And I mentioned earlier, practical. I want you to talk to me practically about this. What are the wastes that I can recycle that will make me money? And what category of wastes, as it were? Yeah, because we have categories of wastes.
Well, everything around you essentially has a value. So everything that you use on a day-to-day basis, your clothing, the bottles, cans, plastics, anything that you use on a day-to-day basis has a life cycle. And sometimes whenever these things, gets past the life cycle, people just discard them, throw them in the trash. But in many cases, you can sell those things because they can get recycled. And I'll give you a very simple example. So your plastic bottles, for instance, that's a big part of our business. These plastic bottles are worth significant amount of money today. So most of them actually go into export. So you're actually generating forex for the country. So I would say that there's nothing that you don't have. Your phones, which is a very high, electronic waste component. A lot of the used electronics in your house, your appliances, all these things have value. But you need to pretty much do your research to figure out who actually is able to collect these materials and who can actually convert it to a valuable product. But in many cases, people are willing to assign and give you value for it. So I would say look around your household, anything that you have that is of value that you're trying to discard, take a step to actually consider how you can potentially recycle it to capture value from it.
Olawale, I have a lot of waste I need to recycle. The question is, where do I, sometimes you don't even know where to go to be able to recycle this. When you even travel abroad, you have different trash cans, as it were, different ones where you put different things. Do you think that even as Nigerians, that should also be where we should be heading to in terms of state policies and all of that, so that we can discard our waste according to how we should discard them? That's one. The second question is what I asked earlier. I have a lot of stuff I want to recycle. For example, you even see scavengers, even around streets, scavenging dust bins and all of that. And I know they sell it where for people listening to you now and say, oh, okay, I want to turn a new leaf. How do we begin?
Okay. For your first question, in terms of putting together things like bins to actually make it easier for residents to actually recycle, I think a lot of your earlier guests have spoken about some of the deficiencies in infrastructure that we struggle with today in the power sector and other sectors. So the waste sector is the same. We've really struggled in terms of having really strong infrastructure that can help people recycle easily. However, government has done a lot of things in terms of working with recyclers like Recyclers to create more collection centers. So Recyclers today has set up about 30 collection centers around Lagos in this 20 to 42 foot containers. You can bring your recyclables there. We actually pay you for it.
How
So
much?
if you go
How
to our
much?
website,
Sorry,
um,
Olawale, just give me an idea. How
yeah,
much?
yeah, okay. So, for instance, today you can actually get, we actually sell per kilogram, we buy per kilogram. So,
Okay.
a kilogram of plastic bottles, for instance, could be as high as 100 to 200 naira per kilogram. And just to give you, a sense of how many bottles that is, that's about 35 bottles. 1 kilogram is 35 bottles. So if it's 30, if it's 35, if it's 100 naira per kilogram, you're roughly around 3 to 4 naira. In some cases, 8 naira per bottle. So it begins to add up, and you see guys carrying big sacks. Those sacks are probably worth a couple thousand naira. So at a time, so there is a lot of value to that people can bring to recyclable centers. And unfortunately, we don't have widespread recycling collection centers yet. So the private sector has really taken that responsibility to put those things in place. But I think as we get more, as the private society more, we'll see more opportunities where people can actually recycle much more easily.
Okay, final question for you. If these waste is being recycled, or those bottles or whatever is being sold to people like you, what do you use that for? That's, yes, what do you actually use that waste for?
Okay, so I'll give you several examples. I'll start with the plastic PET bottles, like when you buy your minerals or your water. Those plastic bottles, as I mentioned earlier, have a variety of applications. Yeah. One is goes into fabric for clothing. So we cyclists collect this material, we sort it, we compact them, and then we sell them to opticals here in Lagos. And in some cases, we do export some of this material to Europe and other continents that they can actually utilize this packaging for other applications. Another very prominent application is taking this packaging and making new packaging. So in addition to the PET plastics that we actually use and sell to converters that makes pellets that go into making plastic bottles, we also collect glass bottles.
Okay.
Glass bottles are taken by companies here in Nigeria. They actually remelt the glass, and it actually helps lower the energy cost. So it actually saves the environment, and also in terms of the climate, in terms of CO2 emissions.
Okay.
So there's a lot of value to that.
Thank you very much, Adebiyi, for joining us. We'll discuss this another time. From what I can hear, there are a lot of economic benefits and a lot of opportunities for private sector to take advantage of. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a wonderful day too.
Thank you.
All right, so you've heard it all today. So packed, of course, turning waste to wealth, and some other issues we looked at: student loan fund and electricity tariffs. That's the much we can take on today's edition of the program. I am Nancy Naji. Be the best you can be, and be the change that you want to see.